Hello and welcome to History on the Hoof. Today we're on the Pennine watershed between Lancashire and Yorkshire, about 1150 feet above sea level, beside a very old road whose origins probably date back to prehistoric times. The reservoir we can see is Widdop, the name taken from the area and built between 1872 and 78. The nearest village is Heptonstall, some 6 miles away, and the edges of the town of Burnley to the west another 6 miles. So quite a lonely spot. There are still a few houses occupied, but although out of the way, there used to be many more. Around where the reservoir is now, there used to be at least a dozen occupied houses. The place we're going to look at caught my eye one day passing by. All there is now is a building platform, or flat area where a building has been, and a few pieces of stone. Intrigued, I did a bit of research. The platform turned out to be the site of a house first recorded in the 17th century. It was called Pasture Side, and much of its history was not seen important enough to record it in lights as the residents got on with their lives in this wild spot. Things changed during the 1870s, probably as a result of the construction of the reservoir, when the farmer occupier decided to sell beer as well as work the land. In the 1881 census, Joseph Throop was recorded as beerhouse keeper and farmer of 9 acres at Pastures. Things then certainly became more infamous, or at least recorded. Pastures, or what was to become known as the Traveller's Rest, got a well-deserved reputation as quite a den of iniquity. The road was often used for bowling. That's basically throwing a smooth and rounded stone ball as far as you could, replete with the associated excitement of gambling. Not only was the gambling illegal, but imagine coming round the corner, either on foot or driving your horse and cart, and being faced by a missile hurtling towards you. The Traveller's Rest became well known as a place to gamble on pitch and toss, one newspaper report recording that a policeman had come across a man tossing by himself, which did give me pause when I read it. Perhaps to further explain, the article went on to say he was practising throwing either heads or tails. As well as gambling, the beer house of course provided a lot of beer, practically without limit, or at least until it ran out. If the money ran out, landlord beware. There is at least one occasion when the place was stormed. Drinking, gambling, fighting and utilising the place as a focal point for hiding, then dispersing stolen goods before the culprits were shipped to Australia for sheep rustling. The stolen goods are found years later hidden amongst the crags above, but I don't know if the men never made it back. Amusingly, a guidebook in 1879 recommends it, where good homely entertainment may be had. I suppose it depends on the type of family you have. There were a few attempts at getting the place shut down by the police and the local land agent for the Savile estate. Given the list of nefarious practices put forward during one case, the magistrate asked if any prostitution was carried out. The answer was no, probably because it was too far out. By the turn of the century, the Traveller's Rest had returned to perhaps a more quiet life, it being occupied by John and Margaret Hay, who were recorded as farmer and wife in the 1901 census. In October 1907, Benjamin Naylor took the licence and was prosecuted for selling beer out of hours. In the 1911 census, the 8-roomed house was being farmed by George and Alice Taylor and their son. In 1914, the same Benjamin Naylor transferred the licence to one Hannah Kay. It's possible he retained it since 1907. By 1921, the Taylors had moved on, and Arthur Hargreaves was the farmer there with wife Maud. This being said, in 1918, in an article covering the licensing sessions, it is reported that the unnamed owner of the property did not wish to renew the licence, and it was allowed to lapse. In 1925, the Photographic Society was served a fine tea, described as piled high with ham and beef, bread and butter. In 1926, the Traveller's Rest was sold by Thomas and Eleanor Wood of Erringdon across the Calder Valley to the Halifax Corporation Waterworks to be converted into a lodging house for workers due to begin on the nearby Gorple reservoirs the following summer. By 1932, the reservoir navvies had moved on, and the Traveller's Rest was lived in by Fred Collinge, a poultry farmer. The final reference I can find to the Traveller's Rest is in a newspaper article of August 1944, recording that a WA ramble had a lunch there. Whether it was by the property or provided by the farmer's wife, if indeed it was occupied at the time, it doesn't say. Some time after this, the Traveller's Rest was left to decay and pull down. Sad to think that all that history leaves only a platform, but it just goes to show what there is if you keep your eyes peeled. I hope you've enjoyed this episode of History on the Hoof, and I look forward to talking to you again soon. If you liked it, please subscribe.